on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great start to your week, having a look at Bitcoin. Now, we were attempting to have a little bit of a move this morning. There was that little bit of hopium, and now we're kind of just hanging around again at the same level. So there are obviously a few things that we do need to pay attention to. The one thing that a lot of people are bringing up is the fact that September is arguably one of the weakest months for Bitcoin historically. You could see right here, it's pretty much neutral to negative. So is history going to repeat again where we have another kind of sideways or even negative September? If we do look historically, we find that Q3 is sort of a little bit of a mixed bag, generally speaking neutral. Q4 is usually where Bitcoin shines, right? So there is a lot of concern about what is happening. Now, I'm not gonna lie right now, if we have a look at the charts, we are seeing some mixed signals. We're seeing some warning signs that I want to go over, and stick around because I'm gonna show you the two things that I'm paying very, very close attention to kind of see what could potentially be happening for Bitcoin. Now, this upcoming move, I am just going to say this, and a lot of people are like, oh, you're just a perma bull. No, guys, remember, we were calling for a pullback. We got the pullback to our exact levels, and we haven't fallen below those levels since, right? So I want to address that a little bit, and if we do look at what historically happens with Bitcoin on-chain and also around these specific levels, it's quite interesting. Could this be the last opportunity before we actually have Bitcoin continue, or is it just a pie in the sky dream and the bears are actually going to win this time, right? There is so much doom and gloom. Make sure you guys watch until the end, though. I do have a little bit of an Easter egg, and of course, something very important that I want to talk about as well. So if all that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you are not subscribed, definitely consider it. If you're wondering where I've been, well, if you're following me on my other socials like Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, well, you would know that I've been making updates over there. I just didn't have a chance on the channel. And also, guys, I just want to say today is unfortunately, a day that, we're recognizing the passing of Hal Finney. But remember that 9 years ago, he did, in fact, pretty much, he was involved in this. He did one of the first Bitcoin transactions. Some people actually think he might be Satoshi. Is he? I don't know. But anyway, RIP Hal Finn. Let's dive in. Let's have a look. So let's look at this. What is really happening? So on the daily Guppy, we have something that is a bit concerning. You can see that we did have these 3 green streaks. We came down here, we got into the deep blue, but we didn't have any red until just now. Now, if we zoom out to the historic price action for Bitcoin, you could see that, going all the way back to here, generally speaking, once we flip and we get this red, right, in the blue, which would essentially be sort of right around this area right here, you could see that that looked like it was a correction out of the bull run. And then what happened? We came down, right? So then we fell even lower. So that's sort of strike one on the daily against Bitcoin, right? We've had something similar down here as well. Let's look at the top right here. Again, what happened right here once we saw the red, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, it's a recovery. We're going to go back to all-time highs." And then what did we do? We fell back down. So I know I'm starting this off with a bit of doom and gloom. I just want to show you guys historically, same thing happened here and, here as well. And unfortunately, we're seeing that again. Now, does this mean that we have to have a 50% drawdown or something crazy like that? Well, let's talk about the fact that we're seeing things that we've never seen before, which is why, of course, you can use the old saying that history often rhymes, right? It doesn't always necessarily repeat, right? But this time, we're actually seeing something we've never seen. We're seeing a possible death cross forming. At the same time, we could be looking at a golden cross with this intersection right here. What does that mean? We've never actually seen that before, and we are still holding below this 200 weekly moving average. Now, talking about other things we've never seen before. We have never seen the EMA ribbon on the weekly flip bullish only to instantly recoil back and then flip bearish. In fact, it didn't even happen. You could see right here, look, flips bullish, stays bullish, right? flips bullish here. Now you can argue, yes, we did have COVID, but we still had a very nice run from the point that it flipped around 5,000. Bitcoin still went up to $14,000, right? Again, we had this flip after COVID. We stayed up for a very long time. And as you can see right here, look, we got the flip right here on this pump, and now if we zoom in, it looks like it's starting to curve back down. This would be the first time in Bitcoin's history we've ever seen a bullish flip on the EMA ribbon, then instantly flipping bearish, right? There's a lot of uncertain, uncharted territory right now. The good news is that we haven't yet fallen below the 50 weekly. And you could see even during this bear market, right? Look at this. Even during this bear market here, when we had this insane drawdown, look at this, 30% crash right here. This is a weekly candle, by the way. Yeah, Bitcoin used to be crazy back in the day. 30% crashes in a week. That was like the norm, right? And look at this, perfectly supported, perfectly supported. And then look what happened once we fell under it. Massive rejection, bear, right? You could say the same thing right here. We danced, we finally broke above it. Again, COVID, I can't really talk about COVID, but once we got back above it, boom, we were good. Same thing here. What's crazy is even if you look at this first part of the double top, what did we do? We fell down, and look at this. We found support on it. Again, what happens? We're being rejected. Major crash, right? Right here, we broke through it, and currently, we are still sitting above it. And that level is around $23,800. Have we been talking about the fact that there is a little bit lower of a possibility? Of course, but we did reach our target. We are still below the 200 weekly, but we've had 2 tests on that. So we're having consolidation at this level. And the one thing that I had talked about was building that base. So whether or not we actually do fall to the downside and then come back up, regardless, this is exactly what I wanted to happen. I literally had spoke about how we needed more of this bullish support, right? Because we had this test on Terra Luna, rejected here, boom, right? What happened here? Rejected, boom. And then what happened here? We touched it and we bounced off of it, right? But considering that you have, and I don't count this first wick because that was a little bit of a black swan unpredicted. But right now, we have 1, 2 on the resistance side. And then right here, we have 1, 2 on the support side. So we're actually starting to build some potential equilibrium at this level, which is why, again, I say until we actually physically break a lower low, like a real lower low, which we haven't done yet, by the way. We've only actually put in a higher high and a higher low. You cannot get full on bearish yet. And, some people like to come up with all these predictions. They like to scream. Look, you're just guessing at this point, okay? If you look at the charts, we are not in territory where we should be freaking out yet. Okay, so that's why for me, I was looking for a little bit of uncertain pull back, etc. For the most part though, and by the way guys, if you do want to learn how to trade, make sure you watch the tutorial popping up above. There are $56,000 in bonuses and we go over this every day for free on the channel. In fact, this was a level that if you were watching my channel, everybody had anticipated this and it shouldn't have even been a shock that we retested it, right? But like Negantropic points out, just having a look at what's going on right now in the markets, there are some clues. For example, the fact that we're seeing Bitcoin sellers losing steam, right? They are basically getting exhausted. And if you actually have a look at what James pointed out, if you look at the 7-day moving average of exhaustion, we've only really been down in this area around maybe, he says, 4 of them occurred in 2023, 15 times or so. But whenever we get into this deep area, that's definitely, obviously good chances for accumulation. And it's just kind of showing us that history may potentially be repeating. Now, let me just get rid of this from the last time. Another thing to point out, if you want to just look on the flip side, we do have RSI massively oversold, right? Everybody knows about that. And what's interesting right now is if we have a look at this massively oversold RSI, what are we seeing? We're actually seeing right here a bullish divergence, right? So this could be telling us that maybe the sellers are genuinely exhausted, right? But here is the catch. And these are the 2 major things I'm looking at. I'm paying attention to what the dollar is doing, and I'm paying attention to what stocks are doing. Because unfortunately, I wish that they were less correlated than they are, but they're still kind of following each other, right? And the fact that we are sitting above, we opened above this downward sloping trend for stocks, I would say that was a good attempt this morning, but look at what we're doing. We're pushing down. Now, the fact that we got back above this level, huge fake out candle here, rejection here, sitting above it. But if for some reason, you see us fall back into this zone, that would be pretty bad in my opinion. The only thing that could save us falling below this heart line is if we come down here, we retest the downward sloping trend, and then continue to the upside. Something else we need to pay attention to is the DXY. Now, currently, the DXY is opening red, which if we look right here at this level, if we were to continue pumping on the DXY, well, what would happen? Well, now the DXY would be actually putting in a higher high right over here on this weekly, and we would be starting to curve up like something like that. And we know that if the dollar does continue to fly, then stocks are probably going to get crushed and Bitcoin's probably going to get crushed harder, right? So I really believe that we may not have our answer until the end of this week. We have to see what the DXY does. We have to see if stocks can hold. And we also obviously just have to make sure that Bitcoin is holding at least minimally above this legacy trend. So if you were looking for that pullback, what is the level where we would eventually negate that? Well, the trend would obviously be broken right here, anywhere below 22,800, right? If we were to fall straight down essentially today. And that's because of this upwards trend right here, right? Now, I know some people have spoke about the CME futures gap down here, but if you remember, this was one of those really weird gaps. So we got a gap formed while we were filling a previous gap, right? It's really weird. So we had this gap here, we filled it, but then on the next open, we jumped above it, creating another gap. I've never really seen anything like that in Bitcoin, or at least I don't remember. So I don't necessarily know if that gap has to be closed because we made a new gap while closing a previous gap. It's kind of weird, right? So over here, we do have one gap up at around 27.4. Which I do believe we're going to test sooner than later. I mean, it's right there. I don't see why Bitcoin couldn't at least get a little pump to the 27.4 level. That also, by the way, coincides with all of our major moving averages, the 200 weekly, the 200 daily, and the 200 EMA. They're all coinciding at around that $27,400, $500 area. So for me, that is the short-term level to flip bullish, right? Right now, you're kind of neutral to leaning slightly bearish, but you're not fully bearish just yet. Of course, we still have this legacy uptrend as well. We have one that goes all the way back here to July 17th. Bitcoin has never fallen below. And we've also set in, well, okay, technically it did during COVID, but again, you know, it wicked down and it was back up above it by the next week. So I don't really count that as long as we got the full body candle close above it. And then also this second upward sloping trend that started at the bottom of the crash, we've still respected it, which probably explains why we had such amazing support right here, because we literally had those two intersecting. So that's showing me that these supports are strong. They are holding us thus far. And again, the doom and gloom scenario, I just have to point out, saying that we're going to fall below 20,000, I'm not talking about a wick, but holding below that level, there is just way too much interest in the VPVR. We fall below that level, I'm just going to be honest with you guys, you're talking going all the way down to around like 11,800-ish, okay? That's insane. You're talking about literally wiping away 7 years of price action. Just wiping it right off. Just take it right off the board. Forget about it, right? That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Is it possible? Anything is possible. Is it likely? No, not in my opinion. The most likely scenario is we come down, we have a nice quick retest of the 23, and then that would freak people out. Oh my God, we're putting in lower lows. Well, we're not putting in lower lows on the overall structure, right? Another thing to point out, shout out to CryptoCon, is, you know, they mentioned that cycle bottoms have come at the floor of the green buy zone. And you can see right here, we generally test it one more time, right? So here you go. The bottom is in, we come down into the green buy zone, but then what happens, we usually have a little bit of a fake out, and then we come back down again for a second buying opportunity, right? Same thing, okay, I know this is COVID, we really have to get over this COVID thing. Just scribble that out, I hate COVID. But you can see, excuse me, right here we had the cycle bottom, and again, that actually technically provided a nice dip, right? If you actually take out that COVID crash, that actually was a great opportunity to buy the dip. And currently, if we zoom in right here, we've had our cycle bottom. We haven't hit the level just yet. So there may be that double tap, right? That double check. You want to make sure to form that base at that level. So what am I trying to say in a nutshell? Well, what I'm trying to say is we may have one more potential swing to the downside at some point, but I would be shocked if the markets gave us another opportunity, another gift after that. So if you're freaking out about Bitcoin's price action, just understand that historically speaking here, we are looking at the probably one of the best times, not financial advice, to be buying. I mean, I want to give a shout out to Trading Shot over here. This is a really great chart that they made over on TradingView. And you could see that if we look at the MACD and we have a look at these bullish crosses that we've had, for example, this was the cross that we had back here. Bitcoin was around $400. And then in about 183 days, we had a pump to the 0.786 fib. Now, every single time Bitcoin has ever had this MACD cross, we've always minimally, and sometimes we've gone through it, we've always hit the 0.786 fib, right? So if we go all the way back to here, that got us up to 793. We had it again, right? We had the cross again over here. What happened? We went basically from around 6,000 all the way up to the 0.786, which brought us to 14,000. So we are currently having the same thing happening right now. We're having that cross. So again, the question is, does this bring us up to the 0.786 target? Well, do you guys want to know what that is? It's roughly about $50,000. So, if we have a look at the average amount of time that it takes, we have 183 days over here. We had two of them right here. This was about a year. Again, COVID, just pointing it out, COVID. And this one right over here, this only took about 92 days or 3 months. So if you kind of consider where we are right now, starting September, October, November, December, that's 3 months right there. Is it possible that we could have a fake out crash to the downside and then see Bitcoin continue to the upside around 50,000? So again, we need to just talk about the fact that buy Bitcoin is actually trending up globally right now. You can see right here, it's actually currently trending up. So you can't say that Bitcoin interest has been lost when worldwide in the past 7 months, we're pretty much as interested as we were back in the beginning of the year. So we lost interest, and now there's actually more interest in Bitcoin than there was before. Let's talk about some opinions that are not of my own. These are other people's opinions. We have a JP analyst that is convinced that the worst is behind us as far as Bitcoin is concerned. Nicholas Panagurtzoglu attributes a weakness in Bitcoin to a bunch of long positions that were liquidated as positive news, including the pending approval of the spot Bitcoin ETF, which we are going to get into that again. I know you're sick of hearing it, but you got to pay attention to what's happening because it is bigger than people think. Not even just the fact when the ETF eventually gets approved. It's not even that. It's everything else around it, which we'll talk about. But he agrees that there has been positive news in crypto, including PayPal having their dollar I cannot talk right now. PayPal having their dollar-pegged stablecoin, and then also Base, which was launched by Coinbase. But investors are staying on the sidelines and awaiting for regulatory clarity. This is a big issue in the U.S. specifically. However, I'm going to show you a graphic which may change your mind on how exactly significant the SEC's roles may be. Obviously, we had Jackson Hole, right? Nothing happened. He came out, said that they were going to remain hawkish. We didn't really see price do anything. We didn't really see anything happen. But one thing that we are seeing happening, this was crazy, in just 60 seconds, like a minute, literally. I can't do the math here. I think this is close to like $150 million that was like withdrawn in Bitcoin in just like a minute, right? So obviously this has something to do with the fact that people are kind of freaked out about Binance. They have seen their Bitcoin reserves drop 16%. According to Julio Moreno, head of research at CryptoQuant, a drop below 16% would be the lowest ever recorded for the exchange. He referred to the recent FTX collapse as a pointer to the direction the crypto exchange might be headed. FTX reserves never recovered once they fell 50% from all-time high, and their behavior was erratic. So they are a little concerned that this could be happening with Binance. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have seen almost every type of FUD you can imagine since 2017 when it comes to Binance. You name it. And Binance has somehow always come out on top, always been able to, prove that they were legit, etc. Now, I'm not saying I don't know everything that goes on in the background, and I would assume there's some shady things going on everywhere, at every exchange, at some level. But I would say that I wouldn't just bank on this FUD until we actually have more clarity. But something that we need more clarity on, or I think people are not quite understanding, is BlackRock's involvement in Bitcoin, okay? A lot of people I'm hearing in the comments like, oh, well, they don't care. They're just doing the spot Bitcoin ETF so that they can get those fees, right, on the trading. Well, of course, they would be charging egregious fees, let's be honest. But also, I think that BlackRock has something bigger in mind. These guys like to have their hands in all the assets, not just the fees for trading the assets. And this extends beyond just the ETF. Do you guys know this? Did you know that BlackRock is positioning itself in the Bitcoin mining industry? Did you know that? The investment giant is already the second largest shareholder in 4 of the 5 biggest Bitcoin miners by market cap: Riot, Marathon, Cypher, Hut 8, and TeraWulf, okay? And they have their hands in there. And these are big market caps: 1.92 billion, 1.83 billion, okay? So if you're telling me that they're just doing this ETF so they can just get some sweet little fees, no, I completely disagree, guys. They are realizing this. In fact, this is actually not related to crypto, but just to kind of show you the type of people that BlackRock are and how they want to accumulate all of these, look at this quick clip from RFK about what they were doing when they were out, or they're still doing it apparently, outbidding Americans when they're trying to get homes.
Or most of us know people who were about to buy a home. They were ready to do it, and at the last moment, somebody comes in with a cash offer and scoops it out from under them. We've all heard those stories. Why is that happening? BlackRock. There's 3 companies: BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. And those 3 companies, which all own each other, so it's really one huge behemoth, also own 88% of the S&P 500. And now they have a new target, which is to gain ownership of all the single-family residences in this country.
So in a blog post, Arthur Hayes actually talked about this, and this has nothing to do with the pump-amentals or whether or not we're going to see it pump, but he did say, what I'm trying to say is that crypto itself was never the problem. The issue is who owns it. You see? They don't like the fact that the average retail investor was able to front run them, right? How many Bitcoin billionaires were made from the guys that bought back in 2012, 2013? I've met a few of them. I wish I had listened to my friend. I had a friend, for those of you who don't know, back in college who told me to buy Bitcoin, and I didn't listen. And I could have got some Bitcoin for like 20 bucks. But anyway, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? Everybody wishes that they bought more Bitcoin, and they wish that they bought more Bitcoin earlier, which is hilarious because right now people are asking me, should I buy Bitcoin? Well, how does history tend to play out? So getting back to BlackRock, and we're going to talk about that. Stick around because I do have something to say about that. So Hayes went on to say that banks and regulators could agree to restrict in-kind redemptions of crypto products or force them to convert to fiat currency every time they want to withdraw or transfer, more or less trapping them within the corporate banking architecture. So there is a little bit of that 1984 kind of control, right? The more philosophical question is whether we can retain the ethos of Lord Satoshi when the industry is flooded with possibly trillions of dollars parked in financial products. He says Larry Fink does not give 2 Fs about decentralization. His business is based on centralizing assets at BlackRock. And if you want to centralize these assets and you want to have them spot, you have to actually have them one-to-one. And this is exactly what I've been preaching, is people don't understand what will happen when you open the floodgates to all of this money, okay? If you guys watched my YouTube short, I was over on Debate Crypto. What was I saying? There's 55 million millionaires in the world. If some of these guys are waiting for products like ETFs to get allocation, sure, some sophisticated guys, they'll do percentages, but let's be real. Who's going to buy 0.2, 0.5, 0.7? Nobody. They're going to want at least one. It's that psychology, and there isn't enough for them. I don't think people get how big this is, and it's not even just the ETF. I don't think people understand that BlackRock is not going to get involved in something like this unless they can have majority share. You think they like that guys like Saylor have more than him? Well, actually, that's funny because they're invested in MicroStrategy, so I guess they also have sort of exposure to Bitcoin in a roundabout way. So my overall point is, though, you just cannot underestimate how big this is. In fact, it's not only just that. The Bitcoin discussion itself is becoming quite a large topic of conversation. Kathy Woods actually says that she thinks Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general are going to be a big topic ahead of the 2024 election, right? We've seen a lot of these guys, Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr., even DeSantis, who says we can do Bitcoin if we want. But, you know, she points out the fact that you saw what happened with Elizabeth Warren leading the anti-crypto army, and she said that some of the younger people she's talking to have actually shifted from Democrats to Republican over just cryptocurrency stances alone. So she says that politics needs to pay attention, especially when it comes to young voters. You can't be on the wrong side of young people and win the election. And I would think that the majority of people, specifically millennials in general, I don't think they're going to they're not going to talk. I mean, I would have to say that if I meet most people, it's very rare that I find someone that just outwardly says Bitcoin is trash. You know, some of them will be like, I don't really understand it. I don't really know what's going on, but, you know, I think it's a thing. I think it has a place. Or other people would be like, you know, heck yeah, Bitcoin has a massive, massive future in the US and globally. Very rarely do I run into somebody who generally just like hates Bitcoin. It's very, unless they just had a really bad experience and lost a lot of money. But obviously that's speaking through emotion, right? And, you know, like Ryan Selkis says, unfortunately, he thinks that there's no future for crypto in the US if Biden is reelected. I'm sorry. Move abroad, draft Newsom, and hope for the best. Or vote GOP, where at least we know the top 3 candidates are less terrible on this issue. Crypto has always been political. Have a nice weekend, right? And of course, we are having these issues. US crypto startups facing adoption slowdown and difficulty amid regulations. But interestingly enough, if you actually look at global crypto adoption, this is the index score, and you come over here to the US, you actually realize that the US is actually only number 5 on the chart, right? Which means that we're not even the most influential. In fact, it's estimated that about 80% of most crypto volume trading happens outside of the US, right? But it's crazy how the whole world just sits and waits for what Powell says, right? Still, the US has that influence, even though realistically, we kind of don't when it comes to the actual trading of Bitcoin and the volume. But the US has that power when it comes to politics, right? When it comes to what we say. The whole world, you know, is always looking at the US. But what I'm seeing recently, for example, BRICS members India ditches US dollar, purchases 1 billion barrels of oil with rupees for the first time ever. So we're seeing it happen in real time. And I'm not saying I want to see the dollar collapse. You know, I'm in the US. I'm not looking like rooting for that. But unfortunately, you know, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You want to just sanction everybody off and use it as a weapon? Well, look what they're doing. Screw you then. We're not going to use it, right? And I think it's going to extend to things like Bitcoin as well. We're going to look for that global reserve currency, or at least reserve asset. And I think that as time goes by, it becomes more and more apparent that Bitcoin is the answer. At least that's what I've seen in my years in crypto. Every time they say, oh, you know, a company would never put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Well, guess what? MicroStrategy did. Oh, a country would never put, Bitcoin in their reserves. Well, guess what? El Salvador did. And they are literally, you know, building like a volcano, like mining and making it a standard unit of account. And, you know, now people say, oh, well, you know, you'll never hear like a president or a discussion about Bitcoin in politics. Well, guess what? It's happening now. All of these things are happening. Bitcoin ETF is going to happen. Okay. It's going to get down to a point where if you don't have access, if you don't have an allocation to Bitcoin, it's not going to be a thing. Like I'm telling you, financial advisors, they're going to advise that you hold some Bitcoin. It's just going to happen. And if you guys didn't see this news that came out just in, Hong Kong has officially now launched its first Bitcoin and crypto trading platform. So, you know, China, anti-Bitcoin, but yet Hong Kong officially launching its first Bitcoin and crypto trading platform, right? First they fight you, you know the saying, right? Slowly and then all at once. But this is where I want to end today. And stick around for the last couple seconds because you're gonna just really have reality hit hard when you see this. But so this person over on Twitter says, you know, after my 6 years in crypto, my only regret is not buying more Bitcoin and Ethereum. This person talks about FOMOing into all these different NFTs, DeFi, meme type coins, but all these fads, they fizzle out over time, right? You chase the pumps, maybe you make some gains, but then the fad fades, and at the end of the day, you always look back and you always just wish you had some more Bitcoin and Ethereum. I've seen it every single cycle, right? I'm the same way, guys. There are lots of opportunities that, especially in my beginning, I squandered chances to buy more cheap Bitcoin, to bet on the pony races, and I did well on some of the altcoins. Some of them did phenomenal, but what ended up happening? Most of them fell 99% and never recovered, right? And then again, you're sitting there now that you see Bitcoin at 25, 30, 50, and you go, man, I had an opportunity to buy at 3. I had an opportunity to buy at 6. I had an opportunity to buy at 10, but instead I threw all my money into shit coins and hoped for the best. We've all been there, but just be very, very careful. And I did just want to show you something, this little fun snippet. You guys may not know this, but Coinbase used to offer 0.1 Bitcoin back in 2012. 0.1 Bitcoin, which was worth about $1.23, okay, for sign up. So if you could get your friends to sign up, you would get 0.1 Bitcoin, right? Look at this guy just getting all this 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Now this is only $1.22, $1.30, but I mean, you can see right here, this is basically a whole Bitcoin, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, it's a whole, this is one whole Bitcoin. So the point I'm trying to make is obviously buying Bitcoin at 26,000 is nowhere near like buying Bitcoin for $1.30, but it's all a matter of perspective. Yes, I understand diminishing returns. I get it. I understand. But you have to realize that back in 2012, the idea of Bitcoin going to $100 was crazy, let alone the fact that then we went to $1,000, right? January 2017. And then we went to $20,000. And then we went to $70,000. It just keeps surprising people. And I really just need to just stress that if you're not accumulating at least some hodl position in Bitcoin or even Ethereum, I don't know. What's your game plan? Maybe you just want to just cash out, get some dirty fiat, ride some shit coins to the moon. I don't really know. But for me, it's all about playing the long game. So if you guys, again, are going to Bitcoin Amsterdam and you guys, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it out to this one because I have a really busy week, but I do have a code if you guys are interested for 10% off. The tickets are increasing. I think they might have increased already. If you want the extra 10% off, use the code ZOMBIE when you check out. You can check that below. And that is it for me today, guys. So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Hope you're having an awesome day today. Like I said, things could get a little bit crazy for Bitcoin, but you know, oh, and another thing I just wanted to point out too, super quick, this kind of looks like a double bottom. Just saying, right? But this is obviously on the 4 hour, but let me know what you guys think. So that's it for me today. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. My apologies for not making videos these past 2 days. It was a little bit hectic for me. I did get content out on the other platforms though, so if you didn't check that out. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. Make sure to watch these tutorials. If you haven't yet, get subscribed, turn on the bell notification. You guys know the drill. You're awesome. I love you. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.